Welcome to Michelle's Making. Hope you're ready for coffee, crafts, cookies, and cocktails. Let's get going.
Welcome and welcome back to those of you who are joining me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for being a subscriber if you already are. And if you're not, I hope you consider doing so. Share with your family and friends and help this channel grow. We're rolling into the end of Christmas in July. Today is National Whistleblower Day, Cheesecake Day. Talk in an elevator day. Do you never notice mostly people are quiet when they stand in an elevator? Say hello to the person next to you. System Admin Appreciation Day, Get Gnarly Day, and Father-in-Law Day. I was blessed. I had a wonderful father-in-law who definitely had the gift of gab and showed me much love throughout our time together. In the meanwhile, let's get going on our day. We'll start off with some coffee. We've got funfetti creamer in our coffee, so we'll make it a fun one. Let's get going.
Today, rather than making cookies, we're going to make banana pudding using vanilla wafer cookies and vanilla pudding, vanilla extract, milk, ripe bananas, and frozen whipped topping. You'll begin by making the pudding as directed on the box. Now, I like to substitute 1 cup of the milk for heavy whipping cream. It makes a really nice consistency for banana pudding. You begin by layering the vanilla wafer cookies on the bottom of your baking dish. Set that aside, and then you're going to fold your whipped topping into your pudding mixture. Don't beat it too heavily, otherwise it loses some of that lightness and fluffiness. Just fold it in with a spatula. Making banana pudding is really about the assembly of your ingredients. So you've got your cookies layered down in your baking dish, and the next thing you're going to do is add your pudding. You'll gently level out the pudding mix on top of the cookies. As I was doing this, I decided I was going to add a little bit more cookies so I'd have some around the perimeter of the baking dish. Once that layer is complete, you'll slice your bananas and layer them evenly along the top of the pudding. Now, I prefer to use very ripe bananas for my banana pudding, but some people use less ripe, so it really depends on the way you like your bananas. This is kind of like building lasagna. You're going to put another layer of the vanilla wafer cookies. Next, you're going to add a layer of the pudding mixture. As always, I'll put the full recipe in the description box. Next, another layer of bananas. Another layer of vanilla wafer cookies. It's time for the final layer of the pudding mixture. As a final topping, I add crushed vanilla cookie wafers. And there you have it, our delicious banana pudding. Our first craft today is a tier stand tray. For this, I used 3 of the small wooden boxes from Dollar Tree. 2 were the same and 1 had a curved handle, and that was going to be the top tray. I also used 2 of the 5-gallon paint stir sticks. I picked those up at Walmart. I did remove my stickers off the bottom of the trays because I do like a finished product on the bottoms and the sides. So I began by arranging, sort of figuring out how I was going to place the trays. And first of all, I cut off the curved part of the top of the paint stick because I wanted it to be finished and straight on the sides. The holes of the trays I just left as is because I wasn't quite sure how I could fill them. And to be honest, the stick covered up most of the hole, and it really didn't bother me what was left showing. After cutting off the curved end, I used my sanding block to sand off any rough edges. Using my Gorilla wood glue, I began by gluing the paint sticks to the sides of the bottom tray. After centering it, I used my pink clamps from Dollar Tree to hold it in place. You can see here I adjusted a little bit because it was off center to start with. I also wanted to give it a little extra reinforcement, so I used my staple gun for this. Now, I stapled the outside on the bottom initially, but you'll see later on that I changed to inside staples, and I did end up removing these 2 outside staples. Next, I placed the center tray to try to find out where it would look best in the middle. And after doing that, I glued it into place and then stapled it as well. I really was liking how this was starting to look. Do you all use tier trays in your decor? Let me know in the comments. I played around with this a little bit more as to where I wanted it exactly, but I did end up clamping it into place, like I said, and stapling it. Then for the top tray, and I apologize that you can't see this very well because this was fairly tall and it was actually almost up to where my camera was, so it was a little difficult to see the top tray as I was installing it. But I did want the paint sticks to be below where the opening of the little handle on the tray was. The top tray was just a smidge wider than the other 2 trays, so I didn't even have to clamp it in place. That pressure on the paint sticks held it in place. So here you can see I smoothed it out and wiped away the extra glue. And there you have what I'm working on. I am just loving this. Here you can see I was using my staple gun to staple the insides of the tier tray. I feel like using the staples just gave it a little bit of extra strength and security. It did feel fairly secure as I was putting things on the tier tray later. The next step was to give it a couple of coats of my Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white. I did paint everything, the tops, the bottoms, the insides, the bottom of the inside tray, the bottom of the tops, whatever, all angles. I turned it and made sure I didn't miss any spots. I really like my projects to have a very finished look. What about you? Does it bother you if the bottom of something or the back of something doesn't have a finished appearance because it's not really seen? Let me know in the comments how you feel about your projects. Next, using my antique wax color, I gave everything a dry brushing. Again, the sides, the insides, the tops, and the bottoms of everything, and did a light dry brushing technique to give it some distressing and a little dimension. And there you have it, our finished tier stand trays. For our final Christmas in July project, a wood block Christmas tree. Now, with all the remodeling around our house, this was some of the leftover baseboard and molding that we used. And I began by cutting it in descending sizes. So I started out with one size, went a little bit smaller with the next and the next and the next, and then glued them all together using my Gorilla Wood Glue. The pieces did seem to want to slide around a little bit as I was gluing them, so I did realign them and used my bottle of wood glue to hold them in place while they dried completely. After they had dried completely, I gave everything a good coat of my Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white. Even though these blocks were white, I did want them to have an even chalk paint type finish. Once that had dried completely, and I did have to use my handy dandy heat gun to speed up that process, I then used my antique wax color paint and gave it a dry brushing to give it a little distressing and add some dimension. I started out going lightly just around the edges and the corners, but I decided I wanted a little more than that. Remember, with distressing, you can do as little or as much as you like, whatever you like or whatever fits your decor. That's what I did. So then I needed a little something for the top, and I had a couple of wooden stars left over from a pack I had picked up at Dollar Tree. One looked like a snowflake, well, I guess it was a snowflake, and the other was a star. I glued a pearl bead that I had to the center of the snowflake and glued the star on one side and the snowflake on the other, just to give it a little variety depending on what side you were going to look at, because eventually I think I'll be using this on my tablescape at Christmas, and you'll be able to see it from both sides. Well, there you have it, our wood block Christmas tree. And now it's time for my favorite part of the day, our adult beverage. Today I'm going to make a sour apple margarita. For this, you use sour apple liqueur, tequila, triple sec, and sour mix. Now, you add everything to your shaker. Again, the recipe will be in the description box. But once everything is added, you shake, 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 and this will be poured over ice in a margarita glass. You could sugar or salt the rim if you like that. I prefer no rim on mine. Let me know in the comments if you like salt on your margarita. But there you have it, our sour apple margarita. Enjoy!
Well, folks, that's it for another week. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Let's make it a great week. Don't forget to take time to stop and smell the coffee, and I'll see you next Friday.